fans, I think, can sense it right now.
To go, inbound to Weatherspoon with one. Weatherspoon puts up the three. It's no good!
The Liberty Flames are still dancing.
Fan the Flames to the biggest victory in school history.
Georgia to inbound, gets it to AC. Deep three, pull up. He banked it in! He banked it in!
Shot at the buzzer.
Good! It's good! It's good! It's one more!
Larry Blair reverse layup up and in, and he's fouled.
Man, you talk about degree of difficulty.
With two, Georgie at the buzzer. Got it! He got it!
Darius McGee, a game for the ages.
And Liberty wins 4 games in the Big South Tournament to take home the 2013 crown. Look at Bio Baxter Bell.
25 for Colin Porter.
Holmes lead. Splash.
Shiloh Robinson with an effort play.
And Liberty keeps on coming.
A huge basket by Kyle Rowe.
Got it! Pacheco with the three.
Liberty, put your dancing shoes on.
What's going on? Welcome into the Sea of Red podcast, the first basketball edition of the season, joined by Jon Manson, Joel Vander Pol. Joel, we'll start with you, my friend. How we doing?
We're good, man. Basketball season's here, so I'm good. Hanging out. I'll tell you, took some brutal losses in Roswell Rec baseball last weekend, and we got in the car, and I said to my son, I said, "Hey, John Allen, it's basketball season." And he's like, all right. So the Vander Pol family, we're ready for basketball season, both as youth players and as Liberty fans.
There we go. There we go. John, my friend, long time no see. How you doing, bud?
Doing great. Good to see you. We've obviously been texting a lot the last several weeks as basketball season's gotten underway. So good to be back. A little bit of a different feel, if we can say that, with the pod this season.
Yeah, a little bit different. Our longtime pal, Will Matthews, he's going to join us hopefully a few times throughout the year, but not going to be able to do it on a regular basis. I'm not going to be able to do it as frequently. We'll see. I don't know. By the time we get into February, I might be saying I'll do it every day. It's hard to stick away. I do have 4 kids now, though, so I probably should try to take care of them a little bit more than Liberty basketball, but I can't stick away. I'm so excited to have basketball back. Before we get into it all, John, let's tell the friends about Jason Porter Real Estate. How many years has Jason Porter been supporting a Sea of Red?
Yeah, Jason's that guy, right? He's a great friend of the show and of myself and you guys as well too, I'm sure. But make sure you reach out to Jason. Any real estate needs you need in and around Lynchburg area, commercial, residential, you know the drill. Jason Porter Real Estate at gmail.com. Best way to contact him. I'm sure most of you listening are familiar with him, but he's a huge Liberty supporter, and he's on the radio with Alan York for both football and men's basketball. So if you have any real estate needs, reach out to our guy, Jason Porter.
All right, good stuff. Before we kind of jump into talking about this year's team, which is obviously just another exciting version of Liberty basketball that we've kind of become spoiled here in recent years, I want to talk about Jesse Sanders. Just had the Hall of Fame induction. Obviously, I don't think anyone that's ever been a Liberty fan would say anything other than Jesse Sanders, one of your all-time favorite Liberty basketball players, just the guy that did everything for this program. Joel, you got to be there. You know Jesse. Tell us a little bit about how cool that weekend was for him.
Man, it was special. I'm sure most people here are aware Jesse's had quite the year. Diagnosed with stage 4 cancer last year, really fought, and God was incredibly just put his healing hand on him. And when I went to hug Jesse when I first got there, I was like, oh, you're strong as ever. So that's the least surprising thing. But it was just great, man, to, a handful of us were able to go there. Carter McMasters, Tyler Baker, Ethan Layer, Coach Layer came. Tanner Hoyt was there. So we just want to make sure that John Caleb was there as well. We just want to make sure that Jesse felt loved and supported. I think all of us were roommates of him as well as teammates at one point or another. Really special weekend. Incredible just testimony and just the most gracious induction speech. Really glad that we were able to be there. I don't know if it's like, was he late? Like, should he have gotten in earlier? I don't know how that worked, but it was a no doubter. And
first ballot. He had to be a first ballot.
Had to be first ballot.
Yeah.
So I would say that, but there was a swimmer who got inducted, well-deserved, who graduated in 2019, which makes me think that he wasn't the first ballot. He's a first ballot. Everybody knows that, but it was great. He's doing very well. And so it's a fun to hear stories about the camp they now own and operate in West Texas, and just what God is doing there. So it's been it was incredible to see him, just knowing how much we've been talking over the past year with everything he was going through, and then to get to see him in a celebratory way was incredibly special.
I'm sure most people listening to this or watching are familiar with Jesse, but for those of you that maybe you're not, Liberty's a young institution, a lot of young fans, students that have become fans and maybe are alums now. But, Jesse was amazing. 6'3" point guard from Texas. He arguably the greatest point guard in Liberty basketball history. He had a triple-double each of his 4 seasons on campus. I heard Coach McKay was part of his Hall of Fame announcement that Liberty put out was Coach McKay talking about how Jesse could impact the game without scoring better than anybody he ever really come in contact with. And that was definitely true. I mean, you could look up kind of similar to like a Zach Cleveland, obviously different type of players. But you look up and Zach's got 7 rebounds and 6 assists, and it's like, I didn't even notice he did anything. Jesse was that type of player, but obviously the point guard, and super stoked for him. Glad he's doing better. Was really concerned about him with that health scare he had in the last year. But good thing is it happened when he was young and in great peak shape. Also played professionally for several years before returning home to Texas. So super happy for Jesse, and glad you were able to see him in person.
He stole a lot of rebounds from me. People often say JBP wasn't a great rebounder, which was true. However, I would say at least 2.5 a game were stolen from me by Jesse. But if that's what it took to get him in the Hall of Fame, that's what it took. So that's the smallest part that I could play.
I think was he the first player ever to have a triple-double in each of his first 4 seasons, which I know now it's like 6 seasons for most college athletes, so it's hard to really
6 or 1
equate 6 or 1. But yeah, for freshman year for Jesse Sanders, played with Seth Curry, and then got you had 2 years with him, right?
I redshirted that first year, and so I had 2 years.
3 years.
3, yeah. So he was 08 high school. I was 09, and so his year was Jesse, Carter, Brolin, Seth that year, and then I came in the following year, redshirted my freshman year, and then played 2 with him afterwards.
Okay, yeah, and had that great year in what was it, 2011, 13-5 in the Big South.
High Point at home.
Evan Gordon.
That's right.
I wasn't gonna bring up High Point. You know what though. The ESPN Plus was so bad back then. I watched like 5 minutes of that game because it just kept cutting out. So I don't know what did
have good coverage was Clemson. That game was HD. That one was crystal clear.
During Convo, right? They replaced Convo for you.
Essentially, yeah. We had to shoot around at like 6 a.m. It was awesome.
It was awesome until the game started.
That's 100% true, yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about this Liberty team off to a great start against a NAIA team. Kentucky Christian wins 98-57. The story of the day was Brett Decker, who dropped 29. John, what was kind of your initial takeaways from a game where it's hard to really have any takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's really hard to have many takeaways. It's good to see Brett Decker do that. I wasn't shocked I text some people before the game, said, if you can find a Brett Decker player prop greater than 20 points scored, cash it, because that's easy. And he almost hit 30. 8 for 10 from 3. It doesn't matter if you're doing that in warm-ups. That's a good line. So that was super fun to see that. RJ Jones was a guy that I was a Virginia Tech transfer, was a guy that I didn't have super high expectations of him coming in. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman, young, a little raw, but he looked really good, at least in his first few minutes there on the court. Again, it's against an NAIA school, so you got a 4-star kid out of high school, played in the ACC briefly last year. So he should look good in a game like that. So we'll see. Like he'll obviously be tested greatly this weekend. And Liberty, with Josh Smith and Isaiah Enan and their injury status really is thin right now in the front court. So RJ will certainly have some opportunities. But you know what you're going to get from Caden, Colin, Zach, JJ Harper, kind of a similar type player. Reminds me of Jayvon Maughmer a little bit, which is easy to say that because that's kind of the role he's being asked to fill in. But
and it looks similar too.
He does.
Literally had that in my notes, John.
So
I had that in my notes.
I was
JJ
at practice.
Maughmer 2.0.
I was at practice on Friday. I said, if Larry Blair and Jayvon Maughmer had a kid, it's JJ Harper.
There you go. Yeah, that's fantastic. What was Joel? What was your kind of takeaway?
Yeah, I don't think we learned a ton. I don't think you learned a ton about rotation even. To me, that first game, I played in 4 of them, and they're pretty much that first home game is what it is, right? It's against Randolph. It's against, it is what it is. Sometimes it just gets good to get the jitters out. There's a couple things I noticed, like they would make, penetration into the defense, and it was like, oh, that was easy. Like, what do we do now kind of thing. And I think that in some possessions they were passing it 1 too few times, and in some possessions they were passing it too many times. And so I think having a defense you can get past the front line and kind of to the linebackers so easily can sometimes be like, I could pull up here every single time, or I think the right play is to do this. And so it's just a little bit as the competition starts to level out and we get into, the meat of the non-conference, we'll learn a lot more. That was a kind of, what you have in practice, and sometimes you need to see what you have under the lights. Don't think we learned anything about Colin Porter. Don't think we learned anything about Zach Cleveland or Caden. I think everyone in the program knows that Brett can do that, and I think that the belief is he can do it against anybody. And so I don't think this is he's really good against the non-ones. I think this is who they believe Brett to be, and I would agree with that. So that to be said, we didn't learn much.
Joel, is there like a negative side to those games that it can, or is it just a practice and it doesn't really mean anything at all?
It's not a practice. It's good. I mean, it's the same reason that, it's a good to have a game day experience. It's a good day. It's a good reason to have the warm-ups and the media time. Those things are all super important, and it's really nice to get those, especially for freshmen or transfers in who's like, it's their first time in this experience or that environment. It's good to just get a level of comfortability. I remember certain seasons where it's like our third game was our first home game or whatever that was. And so it's just good to get some of the ritual and the rhythm of what a game day looks like. I don't see negatives because when we were playing, it might be a situation like the coaching staff's not going to allow it to be a negative, right? It's like, we're not playing to this standard, we're playing to our standard. It's difficult, but I think everybody knows what it is. I think you got to rip the preseason Band-Aid off at some point. And would you like it to be against a UNC Wilmington at home and you win by 15? Of course, because the confidence is a little bit there. We learned more. But I think the coaching staff can figure out, get a better pulse for what they're looking to see out of certain guys, not what's the score going to be at the end of the game.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, those games do not count towards any sort of metrics whatsoever. So in some ways, I guess it is in terms of college basketball and in coaching, you are able in that first game to kind of manipulate your roster and play it however you want. Whereas when you play Coppin State, the third worst team in Ken Palm later, like you have to try to run up the score. Like it's the way that this environment is built. So and in that way, I think it is better to play a game where it doesn't count towards any of your metrics first, and then hopefully be in a little bit more of a groove by the time you get to a game where you have to win by 20 points or you're going to lose ground.
And a lot of times too, it's not just how does this individual play, it is how does this lineup play together? How do these two guys play together? Can they, because in practice, when you're trying to make the most competitive practice, you're oftentimes not able to go your ones versus your twos, right? Because if you're the most competitive practice, you're going to be splitting up your ones. And so you may not get making up an example, you might want to know how Brett and Xander play together while Zach is on the court. And you may have a hard time doing that in practice against a legitimate college defense. And so it's just more difficult. The combinations of players are oftentimes what you're looking for there as well, not just, hey, Xander, we think that the world of him as a freshman. How good is he? We're not looking for that as much anymore, as much as like, do we like the way that him and Colin hand the ball off to each other, et cetera, in that dribble handoff up top. So it's a lot of that sort of stuff too.
All right, well, let's dig a little deeper here into the roster. Before we jump into that, John, on Isaiah Enan and Josh Smith, correct me if I'm wrong, Enan, we feel like is probably more of a load management why he didn't play in the first game, whereas Smith, it's still maybe he's up in the air if he plays this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Smith, I mean, he's almost 20 months removed from his injury suffered in February of whatever year that was, 23, I guess now. The end of his time there at Stetson, he sat out all last year, was on the team at Liberty and didn't play. I feel like he should be ready to go. Hopefully he didn't have a setback this summer or anything. I haven't heard that he did. So I'm hoping we can have him back soon. And you got to remember with Enan, I mean, that injury just happened in December. So he's still less than a year removed from that. So, hopeful that I think Coach McKay, assuming, again, this was just one game, we might have a different conversation after this weekend and we see how that goes. But I think he's probably playing the long game with these guys. Like, it's more important, obviously, this is the most obvious answer ever. It's more important to have those guys healthy and ready February and March than it is in November, even against a Charleston and an FAU. So I think that's kind of the route Coach McKay and the staff will probably go with it. Now, having said that, like when Charleston rolls in on Friday, like they got a couple 7-footers and I mean, this is a legit squad, right? So it's going to be hard if those guys are able to play to hold them back. So just knowing Coach McKay and his competitive nature and knowing those guys can help us win. But yeah, I mean, I would expect, probably Isaiah probably does not play, and hopefully we can see Josh out there some. But even if we do, it's probably in a limited capacity.
All right, well, let's pull up what we're projecting. And this is a rough projection for the rosters. We'll start off with what we're projecting will be your lineup on Friday. This will be if Enan's able to play. Colin Porter, Caden Matheny, J.J. Harper, Enan, and Zach Cleveland, your likely starting five. Smith could certainly get in there, and then maybe someone could bump Harper out. But obviously Porter, Matheny, and Cleveland are the mainstays there. And fellas, I think that in some ways they're the big three, I guess is what they're being called now. They might be kind of in some ways it's like kind of feels almost boring to have like the same roster every year. But no one else really gets this anymore. Like, you look up and down. Like, I'm looking at FAU's roster, and I had watched them go. I was like, I don't know any of these dudes' names. Like, they're all different. Like, it is so rare to have 3 starters come back in today's college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started with, the Shiloh and the Kyle, I think, were they taking their 5th and 6th years or whatever it was. Like, I think that, you can't tell these kids what to do and what not to do. But I think that they're building a place that people want to be around and that they're well taken care of, and they have a chance to go to this, the NCAA tournament every single year. And so I think the kind of kids that we attract are kids that are bought in. But yeah, I mean, and what's funny too is, like, if you look at these guys like a Zach or a Colin, they were also thrust into very valuable roles early in I think Colin's going to end up starting every single game he's ever played, I believe. And Zach the same way as freshman year. And so when you build around guys like that and you give preference towards them, just from a leadership standpoint, just from what Colin says on the court goes, and why leave? And I know there's more money out there. I know that we're fearful of that every single season, but I think that guys that don't transfer will likely say it's the best thing that they ever did. And I think that was before the transfer portal and before NIL, and I think it's going to remain the same. It took CJ Daniels one more stop at LSU to go find his Miami, and it's not there was no guarantee he was going to be that dude at Miami. And so I just think that guys that stay ultimately will be glad that they did. And so you kind of just got to believe that these guys have good voices speaking into them. And they came to Liberty for the right reasons. And those things, the reason people come to Liberty are not fleeting reasons, that they're things that keep you around too.
I think it kind of just, goes to what Coach McKay has done with this program, what he's built. And he's doing it with the right guys, right? I mean, like Colin, not to speak for him, but just hearing him talk and what he says, like, he wants to be here for what Liberty is. Zach's the same way. Caden's the same way. You've heard them say that. So, I'm sure they've been tempted by more money, like you were saying, Joel, but ultimately they know what they have at Liberty and they like it. And Coach McKay has built a culture that guys want to stay around. I mean, Darius McGee's another one. You go back to he came back for his COVID year, and everybody was like floored that he was coming back and that he didn't even entertain going into the portal where he could have made significant money, probably 7 figures. But this is just the culture Coach McKay has built, and I think he's doing it, just doing it with the right guys. And I think that's really hard to do. I can remember back when I was a student and like in your days, Joel, when you were playing, and Jesse and some of those others, is I used to think, like, can Liberty be competitive building this the right way? Because, the typical, like, basketball, hip hop culture, it's like it's got to be built with inner city guys and stuff like that. And Coach McKay's been able to find this niche where he can get the guys at the top level that want to come in. I mean, look at some of these recruits he's been getting commits from here recently. These are top 100, top 150 type kids that sign up to want to come in here. And it started with, your Darius, a little bit under the radar in recruiting, a Colin, a Zach even, and these guys have built this program into to what it is today, and people want to stay here. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. And when you have those three, talking about the big three, like, I feel like when you get into February and March, as long as those three, Colin, Zach, and Caden, are healthy, like, I feel like you're at least at the bare minimum, you're competitive in Conference USA. And how the rest of the roster comes together and meshes with them, and Coach McKay and the staff builds them together, like, can determine what this team's ceiling is. Like, can they get back to that conference championship level, and can they maybe even do some damage on a national stage?
It'd be nice to not get the world's best 5 seed of all time. The next time around would be very helpful.
Yeah, that Oregon team, man. Jeez. It feels like in some ways, like Coach McKay was maybe a little late to like the transfer party, but it feels like he's sort of, and it's ever changing in college basketball. Like you can't bank on it being this way forever. We know that, but it feels like he's really found his like groove and his balance in between being able to bring in quality players like we saw last year with Enon and Aquino. And I think this year I Harper, and I think Josh Smith is really underrated, but able to do that, but also be able to do what a lot of other programs aren't doing in maintaining and keeping guys. I feel like that is a really good recipe to have like some sustained success here with this model. Just because, I mean, you just look up and down these teams and it's just like they're completely plucked. And it'll be interesting to see how big of an advantage that is in November here. We'll see pretty quickly this weekend, hopefully. And then obviously the Thanksgiving tournament as well, where Liberty's far more experienced than a lot of these other teams.
Well, another thing to think about too is like the transfer portal doesn't work if you don't have a Colin, Zach, and Caden, right? You can go buy or get transfers in for 15 players, and they could all, but that's not going to work if you have to build with both. You have to build with high school kids and then inject with transfers. And I think, Coach K back in the day, he was super anti, one and done. And Coach Cal was one of the first to, super, super embrace it. Well, what changed for Coach K? Well, a guy named Kyrie Irving came along and he was like, you know what, this one and done thing, and you can wear, I think he was the first one to wear number one. If maybe I'm making that up. Maybe that was Jabari Parker. But it's like, you can fight it for a while and then say like, at some point we've got to be competitive. But my point is you can't be successful with all transfers. You have to have the guys, like he's been in the program for 4 years, and you inject the talent and you inject the enthusiasm to maybe get you over the hump with transfer guys, whether that's junior college or Division II or Division I transfers. But you have to have a core that you've built to make those actually work, or else you have 15 different cultures and 15 different good habits and 15 different bad habits from all the guys that's impossible. And so you have to be able to do both. And I think to John's point about who we've getting commits from out of high school, and then you get a late transfer coming in and it's like, oh, like that's actually a pretty good pull for us. And these other high school guys didn't decommit, like they're still here too. So it's got to be both. And you also know to the flip side, you can't just build around all high schoolers anymore. What was Patino was saying, like I'm not even looking at high school. I haven't recruited a high school player or like for years. They're all transfers.
Zach Cleveland, let's talk about him for just a second. In some ways, I feel like he's kind of become an underrated piece, because I think like his market, I think, would be through the roof if he would have like put his name in the transfer portal. Joel, let me ask you this. Like, what do you think his legitimate ceiling is? And like, what could like his next level be? Obviously, I think if he improves his free throw shooting, that would because he's incredible at getting to the line. That would be an easy upgrade. But is there more than that?
I mean, he's an elite athlete. I think of him similar as I do to Scotty James, completely different players. But from a ceiling standpoint, I think about them similarly. Like, Zach's not a knockdown shooter, and that's completely okay. But he's also so valuable with the ball in his hands. Just next game you watch, count how many times he brings the ball up versus a point guard, right? He is so valuable to have the ball in his hands. Coach McKay's giving him a long leash in terms of some of the passes that he is completely fine with him making. Like he is managing the game. He's at any point, a highlight play away. I think what I'm saying is it's impressive how much he is able to control the game and effective he can be, and he's not a great shooter. And that is difficult to do, to put up the stat lines that he does. His motor is exactly like Jesse's in terms of how did he get that ball? How did he manipulate that play. That he nearly dribbled the air out of the ball, but something good happened. And so I remember him as I think he's just matured over his time here, but it's like coach hasn't pulled that spark out of him because he's electric, whatever he's doing, the passes he's making, the rebounds he gets, and the plays that he makes at the rim. But ceiling wise, like the guy's going to make a bunch of money playing basketball. His shooting is going to hurt his ability to, be a stretch type player. It's not, if you've got Colin around you and you've got Brett around you and you've got Caden around you, it's like, okay, like we can use him for what he's best at and be completely fine.
Yeah, and I wonder if this year, with Owen no longer in the picture, because those two are very similar, and both of them struggle from the line, both of them struggle to shoot from range. I wonder if only having one of those guys on the floor at all times now will kind of open things up, not just for the offense, but for Zach. Because when you had a guy like an Owen kind of clogging the lane and Zach driving in, it's easy help defense. I don't know if that's realistic, but I feel like there might be another level for Zach this year. Not to discount Owen, like I'd love to have him still here, but it might be a way to kind of open the offense up a little bit more.
Zach is just a mismatch waiting to happen, and what I mean by that is if he has a 7-footer on him, that 7-footer cannot stay in front of him, and also if there's a 7-footer on him, Zach's not going to go try and back him down. Like that's just not the game he's going to play. But if you have a smaller big on you, he's going to be stronger than him and be able to elevate over him in the post. So Zach is just a mismatch waiting to happen. He's going to be used because he's so dynamic. He will let who his defender is dictate what role he's playing in the offense at that time, knowing he can do both. But if you have multiple strengths, you don't have to play every single strength, every single possession. You can be selective. 7-footer comes out, backup big comes in, he's a little bit lighter. Well, then you might see him back somebody down because he's got 30 pounds on him. So that's what makes him so valuable. It does not matter who's guarding him. Put someone smaller on him, he's going in the post. Put someone bigger on him, let him make plays and get that guy out of the lane. Because if Zach pulls those guys out, then Caden and Colin can finish at the rim when they otherwise couldn't. If we have a big, he is down there, well, Colin and Caden aren't going to get much off at the rim then. So that's what he's able to do is manipulate the defense by how he pulls his defender into or away from the basket or different parts of the floor too.
All right, here's your first stat of the season for you guys. All right, so Zach Cleveland was 65th in college basketball in assist rate. That's the percentage of assists while you were on the floor. 30% of Liberty's assists while he was on the floor were from Zach Cleveland. Of the 64 players ahead of Zach Cleveland, only one was taller than him. So everyone else that's pretty much a stat that's usually guards, obviously. So unlike almost any player in college basketball, was kind of a unicorn last year. There's just not a whole lot of, or at least there wasn't last year, a whole lot of bigs that did what he did.
What you think about too is like Colin's assist to turnover ratio is probably insane, right? You wonder how much better it would be if Zach was on the floor, right? Because I was teasing Jesse stealing rebounds from me. Zach's actually stealing assists from Colin. And it's good because they're assisted buckets. But you think about how good Colin's assist to turnover ratio might be if Zach Cleveland didn't exist. Like that's another way that the team is just better by both of them at wildly different positions being able to impact the game in the same way.
Joel, you played with Jesse, like we were talking about. I mean, that was a guy that basically started all 4 years of his career at point guard, and you were there at the end of his career. Colin is similar, right? As far as like he started from day one. Yep. He's going on. I mean, he's got to be over 100 career starts, and he's still got a full season ahead of him. And he's got NCAA tournament experience. He's got big game experience. You go back to his freshman year and some of the games he was playing in that conference tournament with Darius alongside him. How much I'm asking you, Joel, how much can having a point guard with that much experience? And it seems like Colin's a guy that's kind of below the radar a little bit. Like, we're talking about Zach, we're talking about Caden, we're talking about the new guys, but then here's this steady, reliable fourth-year point guard who's been there since day one. Seems like that's like priceless.
It's a security blanket that you take for granted, and I mean that in a good way. Like He is out there. He's the general. He does not make mistakes. And do not get it twisted. He could go off for 30 if he wanted to. He has deferred for the betterment of the team and the betterment of the offense when he could have easily gone 8 for 10 from 3 2 nights ago as well. Everyone knew he was wildly mature for a freshman when he was starting, 33 games as a freshman, or ended up being. So it's a security blanket that when you're on the court, you're like, a little bit of pressure is off of me right now, because we're going to ultimately get to the right place in the offense. And so it's invaluable to have someone like that who's just got thousands of minutes under their belt. And to your point too, like they're not minutes that were when Liberty was like in a rebuild. Like he's been in every high pressure minute too. And so, yeah, it's invaluable for the team. No question.
And he's an underrated 3-point shooter too. Shot 43% last year from the field, made 53s. But if he was the only guy that was dishing out assists and there wasn't Zach Cleveland at 5'10", it's probably going to be hard for him to get a whole lot of threes off. But I mean, he knocks him down. I mean, he was by percentage the best other than Taelon Peter last year. So. Good. So let's jump in a little bit more and talk about this bench, because this is really, I think, the probably the more interesting part of this roster here. So we have Brett Decker Jr., who I don't think any of us would be surprised if at some point cracks his way into the starting lineup. Xander Carter, Xander Yates, the Xanders, which is there's no way that's ever happened in college basketball before. Ryan Jones Jr., who was very impressive in the first game. And then Josh Smith, a piece that I'm really excited about. I'm kind of fascinated to see kind of how he fits in. Let's start with Decker. He's probably got the most noise after that performance. I don't want to do this. I don't want to say this, but I can't help it. I think back to Darius McGee, and I think back to his freshman year where he was a complimentary piece, came off the bench. Didn't think he was going to take the leap he did his sophomore year, but boy, did he. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on Decker, but it's hard not to see some similarities there.
I disagree with you. And I say that to mean a comment you made previously. I can see him cracking his way into the starting 5. Deserving, sure. What did we learn last year with Taelon is that it is so valuable to have a guy come off the bench and everyone's like, oh, 6 starter. Why would you, if you have the same electricity in a player like him, just like it's a security blanket when you see a Colin Porter or a Jesse on the floor, when you're on the other side and they make their first sub and it's like, this is the guy we spent more time talking about in the scouting report than anybody, that's like a backbreaker. And so I have not spoken to Coach McKay about this. I haven't spoken to anyone in the program about this. I would not be surprised at all if they say, what did we learn last year with Taelon? And it's like, I wouldn't mind having 16 coming off the bench and coming in at the 5 after the first media. I don't know that's the case. I think that JJ Harper, if they started him, again, don't read into the starting lineups other than the 3 that we really know early. And then as the two bigs start getting healthy, once you get into conference play, you're probably going to need a little bit more size and even some of the non-conference as well. But, dude, it is so demoralizing to see someone like Brett come off the bench because now they have the film and it's like, well, this dude doesn't miss from 30 feet in. I view him as a hybrid between Darius and Taelon, where it's like he can make any shot. He can make any shot, but he is very good downhill. He is taller than he looks. Like he is closer to a Taelon size than he is a Darius. That's maybe a bit. It's an easy one, but downhill, he's strong. He's explosive. I see him filling more of a Taelon role than I do a Darius role, even though he's coming off an 8 for 10. Like I understand it's easy to go to the Darius comp right now, and it's not silly to do that. But I just see that like what worked last year being very similar to Brett's role this year.
We need to change it to who's the ending five versus
100%.
the starting five, because Taylor Peter was an ending five.
Well,
like,
yeah,
there was not
minutes,
a single game where he wasn't in the lineup.
Minutes played
is
the number one statistic. That's the number one stat you should be looking at besides anything else, right? If you play 36 minutes and you didn't play the first 4, it's like, got it. Awesome.
Yeah, the thing about
I was neither the starting nor the ending 5 for much of my career. I was a very serviceable middle 15.
Hey, in some of those highlights they played for Jesse Sanders, I saw a lot of number 21 standing in the background. So, you were out there.
So I couldn't rebound. I could seal for a Sanders. I did that for many years.
Yeah. So the thing about Decker is, like, I don't think it'd be a stretch to say he's the best offensive player on the team. And that's crazy to say when you got a Caden Matheny there who was conference tournament MVP, and we saw what he did against Kennesaw State just a few months ago. And we have barely even mentioned Caden's name to this point, which just goes to show you the depth that this team may have. But yeah, Brett is extremely gifted offensively. He's extremely talented on that side. I think what's going to determine his role and how much time he gets on the court is what he does on the other end, right? I mean, we know Coach McKay, preaches and lives and dies by the pack line and the defense end of the floor. So, I think Brett, you heard him in the post game Monday night. If anybody's watched that press conference, if not, go back and watch it. Zach, he was up there with Zach Cleveland. Zach was saying, Brett was doing a great job communicating on defense tonight. So, that's something that they've been talking about. But there's no question, how talented he is, especially on the offensive end of the floor. And the good thing for him is, like, he's got guys like Caden and Colin in that backcourt with him, that the pressure, like, there's no pressure on him. Like, he can just go in and let it fly. Coach McKay, I'm sure, is giving him the green light. He's got very little pressure. And if he's off one night, it's fine. Let's just defer to Caden, Colin, Zach, whoever it may be.
If you're off, find out quickly, because we've got other options.
That's exactly
right.
Did
you ask any good questions in the post-game presser, John?
Probably not. I was the only one in there.
All right, the rest of this bench here, Xander Yates, obviously, man, this guy was just a walking bucket. Like, he could not play for like a whole game and just come in and hit threes. Xander Carter, John, kind of tell us what do you know about him and kind of what you're expecting out of, like, his role this season.
So Xander, I'm sure most of you know, he was high school teammates with Colin. They came from the same school, same town, Ashland, Kentucky. And so they have that relationship already. It was kind of cool. His first career collegiate bucket was off an assist from Colin. So that'll be kind of cool for him. I'm sure he enjoyed that. But one thing about Xander's, like, I don't think anybody would watch the game Monday night and was like, oh man, I'm just wowed by this guy's athletic ability or his basketball talent. But he's solid. Like, he just seems like a solid player. He seems similar to Colin, except he's 6'6", right? There was a couple of times he brought the ball down the court. So, he could be a guy that's, can get some minutes at point to spell a Colin or a Caden. But he seems like a similar type player to that of Colin, except he's got much more length. He's going to make the right play. He was kind of cold shooting the first game, but again, first game jitters, like you were talking about earlier, Joel. Sometimes it's good just to get that first game out of your system. I'm really intrigued to see what his role is going to be this season, because there's a lot of veterans in front of him that we know are going to play. But it seems, I mean, he was one of the first guys off the bench Monday night, so I hate to read too much into that. But I think, Coach, he's gotten to know him. I mean, he committed when he was like in 10th grade, so McKay knows him, and in reverse too, right? Like, Xander knows this team and this coaching staff and this program. So I'm really intrigued to see, what he can bring this year. And, it does appear that he's going to be part of this rotation.
Yeah, I would expect to see him a good amount, just because, again, going back to the length that we're going to see in conference play and non-conference play, like, if he can defend, and from what I can tell, he's strong and has good feet. If he can defend and understand the concepts of the pack line, he's going to play, because I think, to John's point, I don't see him making many mistakes on offense, other than the first thing I kind of led with was like a lot of them were getting through that first line of the defense and then like, oh, like where do we kind of go from here? I would expect him to be in the rotation quite a bit, and not because of his shot making ability, not because like he can finish at the rim. He's taller. He's going to be able to, finish around larger individuals inside. And also I would expect him to be, an assist or two every game, because I think he knows the game really well. The way I think about it too is like he committed so long ago, and like the freshman year learnings that everybody has, like he probably was doing on the phone with Colin and watching every Liberty game in his junior and senior year. So he probably already feels like he's been part of the program just because he knows Colin so well, and he's had the advantage of knowing where he was going for 2 years and being able to watch their game. So I felt highly of him when I was at practice on Friday. And I thought pretty highly of him just in what I saw, meaning what I saw in practice was carrying over to the game on Monday. Any other quick thoughts? I know we've already mentioned Ryan Jones Jr., but any other kind of quick thoughts of a former 4-star recruit from Virginia Tech? It's kind of funny how that doesn't even feel as like crazy as like it would have, back in the day. I was surprised that he was letting him fly on Monday. Again, everybody was, but he doesn't look like someone that you'd say, oh, it's a stretch for, like, no question. But when he was out there, he wasn't hesitating. I don't think Coach McKay is really going to bring in many guys that can't shoot. That's not going to be a surprise to anybody. But is he like a Mayo where it's like, well, that was a big three that we didn't see coming from him, but it looked good the whole time. Who knows? But again, I don't want to read too much into the rotation yet. Big, strong dude, though. And you're going to need those at some point in the season, especially we're just going to be playing against larger teams. And we've seen it so many times. It can be anybody's night. And I think the more guys you have that are capable of having a night to John's point, takes the pressure off. And so if Zach, for some reason, like isn't having, which that doesn't happen much, but like if Isaiah's not having a good game, and it's like, well, Ryan's right here, and he's already shown that he can be very serviceable. It just takes a lot of pressure off the team as a whole.
It's easy to kind of forget about Xander Yates too. I know you were bringing him up a little bit, Nick, but I mean, when Isaiah went down last year, like we're not winning the Conference USA championship last year without Xander Yates. I mean, he played 10, 15 minutes off the bench, would knock down the three, but it was really his defense and rebounding when he was able to give a blow to an Owen, to a Zach. I think, in a perfect scenario, he doesn't really get much playing time this year. But that's if a guy like an RJ Jones steps into that role and can fulfill that. Speak much, right? If he can fulfill that role, he'll be you won't need a Xander. But if not, then coach can turn to a guy like Xander Yates. I wanted to touch on Josh Smith a little bit too. Again, a guy who hasn't played a game in roughly 20 months. He was on a Stetson team that won the ASOR tournament, made it to the – I'm having a rough night. It's late. It's time. I
had no idea Stetson won a national championship. That's huge news.
They did not win a national championship. They won the ASOR championship and made it. They made it to the NCAA tournament. It was their first ever appearance there, but he got injured just ahead of that. Well, his last two games he played for Stetson, he went for 24-11 and 19-11. So, again, I'm not trying to forecast that on him this year. I don't think we're going to expect that of him. Or
sounds like you are.
No, I'm not. But we're not expecting him to come into a role and get 20 and 10 every night. But he has that potential. He has that ability. He can step out and stretch the defense, shoot the threes. So he's been a solid player in his career at Stetson. I think you said it earlier, Joel. He is. I mean, going from the ASOR to Conference USA, we saw how big of a step up that was in our first year in Conference USA. So it is going to be a little bit of an adjustment for him. But I mean, I think he's in his 6th year playing college basketball, so he's been around the block a time or two. I'm sure Stetson was playing some of those, bye games early in the season where he's played some of these, A10 teams, ACC teams, SEC, etc. So hopefully Josh is healthy and can stay healthy. And, I think if he is, it's either him or Enan as a starting 5-man, and the other one's going to be coming off the bench, first guy off the bench. But I think Josh Smith, coaching staff is expecting a lot out of him, and we're going to need him, especially if Enan's injury holds him out any amount of time.
Yeah, he's a player that's very intriguing to me. His freshman year was Elijah Cuffey's senior year. That's how long he's been playing college basketball. He was great, guys, in 2023, which was his last full year, because in 2024 he missed like the first 15 games, came back, played about 7 or 8 games, and then got hurt again and was done for the year. But I mean, this guy was really efficient, a great rebounder. Like you said, he can hit the three. I don't think that's something you want to rely on, but he can at least stretch the floor. So obviously the health is a wild card for a guy that's been out that long. And but certainly a player that I don't think based on kind of what I've seen, I looked at, had some games against like UCF, which was a crazy tall team, scored 16 points in that game. I think I would be concerned about him taking the leap if there wasn't like a guy like Zach Cleveland on the roster and he had to be like the dude. But with what I think his expectations are, I don't think the leap should be that crazy, but I'm excited about him. Just there's definitely some potential of getting a real steal here.
The anticipation is what's killing everybody, right? It's like we've been excited about him for 20-month, long time, 18 months. I remember seeing his highlight tape was when he came in, and I was doing some research or whatever, and I was like, he had some moves that were very similar to like moves that Drew Smith used to make, in where he would short corner 12 feet, reverse pivot, and just get around someone and have an athletic finish. You hope that what allowed him to do that with his athleticism and health wasn't robbed of him, and he's had to reinvent himself. So you hope that he has that same, because he was actually pretty quick twitch for someone his size. I thought was very impressive. But yeah, again, like it's like, to me, it doesn't matter who the starters are necessarily, because if you've got 6 guys coming off the bench, 5 guys coming off the bench, and Coach McKay obviously shortens that bench as the year goes, as any coach will. But if you can just line them up and knock them down from the guard spot and from the front court, it can be a lot of fun, and any guy can have a night. Again, your point, it's like, we're not asking you to come in and be a 20-10 player. You might get 20 and 10 on a Tuesday night, and it might be a lot of fun. But that's what makes this fun, is it can be anybody's night if you have a good roster.
All right, we've talked about a lot of good. John, what would be your biggest concern with this team this year?
You could probably read between the lines of what I've said so far. It's the front court right now. Like, I mean, we you're not going to be able to win a lot of games in conference starting Zach at the 5. No disrespect to them. It's just, we saw that 2 years ago, first year in Conference USA. And I mean, that's obviously not the plan, right? I mean, the plan is to have an Isaiah Enan, to have a Josh Smith as your first 2 bigs. But that's my biggest concern. Those 2 guys have both had multiple knee injuries, and they haven't played in a long time. And you think, are they going to be hesitant when they first get out there? How's it going to be when they take their first hit and fall to the ground the first time? Like, are they going to be some jitters? I'm sure there will be. And then, can they maintain that health throughout the entire season? And then behind them, like, what do we have? Like, I mentioned an RJ Jones. Like, if you look at him, he looks like a dude, but, he looked like a dude in his minutes the other night. But again, it's against an NAIA team. So, let's see what he looks like this weekend. You still got a Xander Yates there too. You got a couple of freshmen, a Drew Grimes, a TJ Drain. I think in a perfect world, they don't really play much, because these other guys, the aforementioned guys I was just talking about, are eating up all those minutes on the interior. But that's my biggest concern is what do we have on the inside? We know what we got in Zach. We know what we got in Colin and Caden. We know what we got in a Brett. And we know what his potential is as well too. And I think JJ is gonna fill in a very needed role on the wing. But the front court, what do we have in that front court, and can those guys stay healthy?
Joel?
It's the same challenge, but worded differently, which is what happens when the shots aren't falling, right? That's just, you've got high volume shooters with Caden. Every time he shoots it, we think it's going in. Every time that Brett shoots it, we think it's going in. Even JJ looked good, like Colin, but on a really tough, like early February road game in conference. And it's like, I do not want to be in Middle Tennessee in Murfreesboro right now. Like, what happens when those shots don't fall, and who steps up and how do they step up? Typically, those are the games where you have a Zach, clean up. Those were the games where you'd see Taelon come in and he would have 18, but not from three, right? Like, so to me, it's when the threes aren't falling, who and how are we finding ways to just like grind out those like tough, cold conference wins that typically at the end of the season, it's like, you drop that one to whoever and you're like, man, I wish we could have that win based on the conference records coming into the tournament. So that would be my concern. And again, it's the same, if John's challenge is solved, which is like, well, the front court's being effective, then you can afford those cold nights. So it's kind of the same challenge, but maybe worded a little bit differently.
Yeah, for me, I think I certainly agree with you guys. On the front court, I guess just to kind of maybe give a little bit of a different answer. I think that in some ways I'm concerned about two things. Number one is someone in Conference USA much better than we think, because these teams have a lot of transfers, and that what that does is it makes the opportunity that one of them, boy, they hit a whole bunch of home runs and they're way better than anyone thinks. And when you have this many teams that have this many transfers, that's always a possibility. And this is it's a one bid league still. We hope that maybe at some point we can get out of that. But you could still be a top 75 team. But if one of these teams just becomes great, that's maybe my biggest concern. And then the other would just be the defense. You lose Aquino and Maughmer, who I think were two of the better defensive players last season. How do these other guys kind of fit in with that? And how do they replace that? Is guys like Josh Smith, like Jones, are they able to kind of replace some of that defense that you lost with Aquino, especially, and Maughmer Island? That would be kind of my two big concerns.
I would say let's not be surprised if we look up in early January and say that JJ Harper is an absolute lockdown defender, best on the court. I would just, clip it. I would not be surprised. There was one play, 3 offensive rebounds in a single possession, and on Monday. Again, competition is what it is, but sometimes it's harder to go get 3 offensive rebounds and dive on balls and chase after it when the battle's already been won, dude. Like, we know the outcome of this game. Sometimes it's harder to go dive on a floor 3 times to get that ball. I really like his engine, and he just looks like someone who wants to play defense. Coach McKay could see this and be like, you are so far from being correct, and maybe that, but he just looks and feels like a guy who is willing to get gritty and dirty, play and say, who's going to guard Caden Carlisle? He's like, I got it. Like, I would not be surprised if he fills that Maughmer role in a similar way this season.
All right, let's talk a little Conference USA. I got to be honest, I wish I had more time to really study the league, but man, it is brutal. I mean, with teams that are just littered with transfers. Liberty by far and away. I'm assuming that one first place vote was Ritchie McKay giving it to Kennesaw State and saying, you know what, after the heck, I'll be polite here, you gave us last year, I'll give you the courtesy first place vote. But Liberty, I think, cleared above. I haven't seen a whole lot other than La Tech getting absolutely boat raced at Nevada last night. Shout out to them. Missouri State and Delaware, man, they get absolutely no love. I'm kind of surprised Missouri State is that far down. Just considering that, their coach was the coach at Missouri, has a pretty good track record. John, I'll start with you. What Kennesaw State does, they obviously lost their best player, but they do still have, I think, their second and third best players, Cottle and Lou, both coming back. What are you hearing around Conference USA?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go through each of the rosters, Liberty obviously has the most known returning, and Kennesaw's number 2 right behind them, right? With, you mentioned Cottle and Lou. Simeon Cottle, like that dude's a player, and it's not fun to play Kennesaw. I mean, we've had some battles with them each of the last couple of years, and I expect them to be right back in the thick of things as well too. Their coach, Coach Petway, he's a really good coach. They got him his first time as a head coach coming from Alabama as an assistant, and he's a good coach. They're going to be tough. It's going to be tough every night when you're playing the Owls, and so you got to watch out for them. And then outside of that, it's difficult. Like, what can you expect? I think New Mexico State's expected to be pretty good, but I don't know. It's a lot of question marks right now.
I'm not prepped on Conference USA. All that I know is I get to go to see Kennesaw State game every single year, and I would like to extend the winning streak because I've had some lonely drives home from Kennesaw to Roswell. I'll just say that.
I agree with you, John, completely. Petaway is a heck of a coach. I've been very impressed with the way that he runs that program. He has great energy. He's a rising star, I think, in college basketball. New Mexico State, man, they are just I don't know if it matters what players they have. They're just a really difficult opponent. I think Liberty swept him, right, but you just don't feel good playing New Mexico State, especially on the road. But we'll see. There's not, looking at KenPom, there's every team except for Delaware is inside the top 200. So there's not going to be an easy night. And even Delaware, they're 238. I mean, that was our 4th best team in the ASUN. So we'll see.
Delaware went to their conference championship game last year. They lost. I forget who they lost to in the CAA, but I mean, and I think they were in the Big Dance 2 or 3 years ago. So Delaware's, they've had a good run here the last 4 or 5 seasons. So I think Delaware and Missouri State are both solid additions to the league, at least on paper. Again, we'll see. A month from now, we'll have a lot more data on these teams and kind of know, what they are. But right now, it's a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. Delaware got beat by Bucknell, who's not looking very good. 280 in KenPom. They lost by 8. They were one of the only teams that I think played a legitimate D1 school. I think everyone played a non-D1 school. So
we'll see. And a lot of Division III and NAIA schools getting funded, it sounds like, in the first week of college basketball.
Well, the problem too is everyone wants a home game, and the only way you're getting a home game is if you play a D2 or D3 or whatever.
First 2 weeks of November is when you learn of schools you've never heard of before. I never knew that was a school. Where'd they come from?
John, I'm having it now where I'm finding out teams are D1 that I've never heard of. That's even worse, is finding out. I'm completely content learning about a school I've never heard of. I do not like finding out that they're in the MEAC or whatever.
It looks like from my crack research, the CUSA played 2 D1 schools and went 0-2. So
that's not a great start.
It was the bottom feed.
Joel, to your point, go look at the NEC, just a lineup of schools in there. Half these schools I've never heard of before.
There's made up schools.
Yeah.
Who the women play?
Frostburg State.
Where is that from? I saw that name and I was like,
Ohio? I don't know. I have no idea.
That's a great name.
They've probably won 4 NCCAA champions. They're probably just absolute studs.
Powerhouse.
Yeah.
Or they're just a school someone made up to collect $20,000 and.
What was that prep school? What was that?
Ohio
high school football team?
Yeah, what was that? I forgot about that.
I forget, but they played on ESPN one night.
I need the name of that school. Someone in the chat find that. Golly.
All right, last thing we'll run through here. Kind of the schedule here for the season. Obviously, we're going to find out really quick where this Liberty team's at with 2 winnable games. I mean, you're at home against Charleston and FAU, 2 teams that you are ranked higher in KenPom. Again, the KenPom preseason rankings, take them with a grain of salt. But Charleston, I'll say this, coached by Chris Mack, there's not many coaches in college basketball that hold a grudge more than Chris Mack, as a guy that's from the Cincinnati area. And they got boat raced at home last year by Liberty. So he is going to have that team absolutely ready on Friday night. And then FAU had a very impressive opening night win. They beat Boston College in overtime, 83-78. Boston College, by the way, ranked 1 spot ahead of Liberty and KenPom. Let's talk about that. And then maybe just real quickly after that, we'll talk about kind of the rest of the schedule and our overall thoughts on that. John, this weekend, what's kind of your expectations?
I mean, it's going to be a tough challenge, but it's hard also to know what these teams are. You expect them both to compete at the top of their conference and to potentially play in March on the big stage, but you really don't know. I was looking at Charleston. They played Monday night against Tusculum, I think it was, and maybe won by like 20 or something. But just going through their roster, not one guy that played in that game played in the game against us last year. So it's like, I don't even know who these guys are. They do have Jalen Counter, which if that name sounds familiar, he was at Middle Tennessee last year, double-figure scorer. He started for them Monday night, so he's one of their top players. They've also got a few injuries, 3 or 4 guys that, I was listening to Coach Mack's press conference from the other night. It's unsure what their status is moving forward, but they do have 7-footers, both first-year guys on the team, both transfers, obviously, and one's from overseas. But, they put up decent numbers in their opener, and they played both of them alongside each other at times. So it's definitely going to be a challenge. And then, FAU, you mentioned, I hadn't even noticed, hadn't looked at them yet, didn't notice they beat Boston College. So, but FAU, they've been good these past few years, was in the Final Four not too long ago. So, it's going to be a very tough challenge. You have to remember in this challenge the last couple of years, we went 0-2 2 years ago. And, those 2 games weren't really even that competitive down in Boca. And then last year we went 1-1. It was an overtime loss to FAU. I think it was, if I remember correctly, Caden had a shot, a 3 at the end of regulation, maybe to win it.
We controlled that game for most of it and gave it away at the end.
And then the next night we came out and just blasted Charleston by 20 or whatever it was. Looked amazing.
After the lights came on.
Yes, after the lights came on. So I had a little light delay down there, but I mean, it's going to be a tough challenge. Like, I mean, I think if you come out a split, you don't feel bad. You certainly don't want to go 0-2, but like I said, I mean, it's going to be tough. And with those injuries in the front court, like, I don't know. I'm nervous. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if we dropped both of them, but I like to think we could get at least a split.
I'll just say Liberty fans for many years have been serial complainers of schedules, right? It's never a good schedule. We never play anybody, whatever. Enjoy it. These are going to be 2 very good games against other potential likely tournament teams. Like, we can't complain when we're playing the Coppin States that we never play the Charlestons and the FAUs. And then we would play the FAUs and the Charlestons and we have a great game and lose in a good college basketball game or win in a college basketball. If we win, we don't get to say we need to go to the Big Ten. And if we lose, we don't need to say that, people need to get their job. Like, as fans, enjoy it. These are going to be good games. We're going to learn more about our team. Mm-hmm. And again, like, just like we're saying, we did not learn much about our team on Monday. The players didn't learn much either. And the best thing that we can do to prep for conference play when it matters, being that we're a 1-bid league, is to go play these sorts of teams in early November and figure out where the holes are, figure out who the studs are, figure out where we need to develop. Enjoy it, because 1, you're going to miss college basketball in the second week of April, and 2, these are great mid-major games, and they are so fun. Enjoy it.
You're also going to have some, national college basketball, coverage, right? Jeff Goodman, Rob Dosser. I mean, these are household names that cover college basketball. They're going to be at Liberty, probably the first time they've ever been at Liberty. They'll be able to see Liberty Arena. Hopefully it's a packed house for both of those games to kind of show it off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, to Joel's point, like, you want to win every game, right? Of course, you want to go 30-0 or whatever, but that's not reality. You're gonna drop some, and you may drop these games this weekend. But the good thing about college basketball is it doesn't really matter. Like, what matters is February, March. What matters is 1 week in March, technically for Liberty. So this is all a learning process. It's all learning who we are, what we have, and where we need to shore up some things, what we need to work on as we get deeper into the season. So we'll learn a lot about the team this weekend.
Shout out to Field of 68. I think those guys are doing an awesome job. I tell you, I wish that would have been around when I was like 19, 20 and just had all the time in the world to watch podcasts and live college basketball talk every night, because what they're doing is awesome. These games
great
on
name
YouTube,
too. Great name.
Yeah, great. Well, these games being on YouTube is really cool because there's so many people that just honestly can't even afford cable anymore. It's something I have a hard time getting every month. It's just it's the prices are outrageous, but this game's on YouTube for free. So there'll be a lot of people that are just casually tuning in. And I'm saying this, but I'm not saying this to throw any shade whatsoever. I hope like people don't take it this way, but I remember back in the day, Rob Doster threw some shade at Liberty, and I don't know his beliefs and if anything changed or whatever, but he certainly has turned a leaf, and maybe it was a business decision, which was smart on his behalf. But him coming to Liberty and actually getting to be at Liberty University around Coach Ritchie McKay, who's the greatest ambassador you could ask for after what happened in the past, I think is awesome, and I think is going to at least give him a different perspective on this school. And I hope, like, I say this to say, I hope he's like greeted well by Liberty people. I hope they show like the love that I think we can show and extend that, because it's really cool to see a guy that kind of trashed us back in the day now coming to Liberty and covering a game.
Well said, Nick.
Okay,
you guys have way better memories than I do. That's what I'm learning. You guys are like pulling up like, oh yeah, these 6 games last year, here's the last 4 possessions of each one. And I'm just a happy bystander right now.
All right, the rest of the schedule. This is a sneaky good schedule. Like Charleston, FAU, Vermont has been a powerhouse in America East. NC State, Dayton, both on the road too. Top 50 teams, and then this Thanksgiving tournament. I mean, Rhode Island, Towson, Temple, UC San Diego. They were the darlings last year, weren't they? Yeah, they were they should have beat Michigan, Princeton, and Bradley. I mean, this is a really cool schedule for Liberty. I think it's going to prepare them well for
Midway.
Conference USA.
Carolina.
Are we playing the Panthers, dude? Was it?
Sorry, Midway. Didn't mean to throw shade your way.
No, but that NC State game, the Dayton game, that Dayton is at home and home, so they're going to be coming here next year.
Are they? Okay.
Yes. So that's huge. How far is that from you, Nick? Is that close?
I'm trying to make it happen. It's about 3.5 hours from me.
I've been there.
I'm trying to. I saw you play there. I was there. I watched you practice at Dayton. I drove up just for the practice. I used to live about 20 minutes away from there.
Nick, I'm telling you right now, I've never had more bounce. I was like a 30-inch vertical guy. I had a 48-inch vertical for that public practice. That was the bounciest I've ever been in my life.
It was awesome. That was a great event.
We were late to it too.
Craig Sager.
We were late to that, man. Our plane got lost before it got to Lynchburg. So we were hanging out in the tower for like 6 hours. So we were supposed to have like a full day in Dayton before we went to practice. And we literally landed, got in a bus, police escort, hotel, change, get your stuff, back on the bus, public practice. We probably were in Ohio for about an hour before we were practicing that day. Super fun.
It didn't show.
A lot of people saying that was worth a point.
For those of you that don't know, that was 2013 in the first four. Liberty against North Carolina A&T played at Dayton. I'd forgotten about that, but I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, I mean, that's a great game. Anthony Grant, head coach there. They're in the A-10. I mean, that they're going to be a really good team, a really good looking roster. And then NC State. I mean, NC State, they're certainly a top 25 team. I believe they may be better than that with Will Wade there. And that's a game that, if you're in and around Lynchburg, like, 2.5 hour drive down there on a Wednesday night, I think it is, to see the Flames take on a top 25 program. I think it's supposed to be on ACC Network. And
you can get them tickets if they want to go, right?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
I don't know why we're playing Will Wade. I got to be honest. I have not enjoyed a single Liberty game.
Somebody has to. Somebody has to.
We beat him last year.
We did. Yeah,
McNeese in that tournament. We beat him in that tournament.
That was an awesome facility too. That gym we played in down there was awesome.
Is Ritchie McKay and Will Wade not the most odd relationship? Like, these are like polar opposite people, but for some reason they got this amazing arrangement that everywhere that he goes, they're on Liberty's schedule.
LSU, McNeese, and NC State, right?
VCU too. When he was at VCU, they came here.
VCU.
If my memory's right, he was the coach at LSU when Liberty was 17-0 and we lost by like 30.
Yes.
Yeah. That still gives me nightmares.
Memory, you guys.
But Dayton beat Penn State by like 30 points in an exhibition a couple weeks ago.
Is Penn State a basketball school or a football school?
Penn State?
Yeah.
I don't think they're in anything school right now. But no, Dayton looks pretty good, and they'll be a challenge. They play Cincinnati and Marquette before they play Liberty, so they'll be playing some good games. But yeah, excited about that.
Good warm-ups for us.
Yeah, good warm-ups. I think, though, that is when students are out, which is always an underrated thing. Dayton has a really, really good student section that is electric for their games. Students will be gone, and if you're going to play at Dayton, that is the time to play them.
Am I making this up? Do they have a great band at Dayton?
Yes, an elite band. Mm-hmm.
Will they be on break?
I don't know. Maybe they only have like half of the band. It's
just the horns.
Just the horns. No drums, no bass.
Actually, no. Just go strings. Just give me a string quartet on the bass line.
Well, fellas, this has been great. Good stuff. I certainly have enjoyed this. I'm excited for this weekend to kind of see kind of what this team looks like. I mean, obviously, if they win both games, like, we shouldn't be saying, this is the greatest team in school history, although I will. If they lose both games, we shouldn't fully panic, which I won't. But any final thoughts from either one of you?
I'm excited, man. John, you go ahead. No, John. This is your show.
My bad. No, I was just going to say it's great to have both of you guys on. Great to have you, Joel, with us, and Nick, you back. Looking forward to the season. It should be fun. Like, it's always fun following this team. I enjoy I love football, right? We all do. Maybe not Nick, but I love basketball. Like, basketball, it's just a different feel. It's a different vibe. It's much more intimate setting inside the arena as opposed to like a football stadium. The players don't have their helmets and pads on. Like, it's much more intimate. So it's a lot more fun. I enjoy it greatly. I'm looking forward to following the team this season. And we'll try to do this podcast a couple times a month or so, in the non-con, and then we'll see what happens in conference play. So looking forward to the ride. Make sure you guys join us for all the fun times, the ups and downs, because there will be some of both, but it'll be fun.
I'm super excited for basketball. I'm grateful you guys had me on. I'm sorry that more of a short question, long answer kind of guy, but I do enjoy spending time with you guys. Also, Vikings are 4.5-point home dogs to a 3-5 Baltimore Ravens team. Big game this weekend for Minnesota.
We'll all be glued to the TV.
Thank you, Nick.
for that. But no, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Check out all of Jon's incredible coverage this year. I mean, the guy's watching Chris Mack press conferences. I mean, where else are you going to get coverage like that? So Jon, appreciate all you do and all you do for Liberty Athletics. This has been a lot of fun. We'll be back at some point soon. Check your Twitter feed. We'll let you know whenever that is. And go Flames. I got to remember where the outro is. Here we go.